Hey, what's going on, people? It is another episode of Bench, episode 5. Everyone out there, please like and subscribe. Let's get into our episode. Coach Dave Miller is broadcasting live. He's on the world tour. Please let the people know where you're at, baby.
Well, Alan, I tried to get you on a standby to Maui. I'm over in Maui getting ready for the Maui Invitational Classic. As you can tell, my son's team is playing tomorrow against Arizona State. So I'm going to give them a quick hook 'em horns.
All right, let's go. All right, well, let's get right into it. Lakers, we get another W. It was a little scary at the end, but what's your thoughts about the game?
Well, I always say this, Alan, a win's a win, but it's kind of awkward when you play the same team back to back. And, the NBA schedule sometimes is a little bit weird when it comes to that. But, from a scouting standpoint, everybody's familiar. And then you take the breakdown. What was disappointing to me, and again, it was a win. I'd rather win and learn than lose and learn. I didn't think, they had a couple days to rest, get relaxed. They had some good practices. But again, there's a theme. It's the consistency. We talk about them being connected.
Correct.
We talk about them liking each other. But, it came down. They were up 13, I think. I was watching over here in Maui. And I think it was like maybe 4:41 left on the clock. They're up 13, and they end up winning by 2. And if Keontae George hits that shot, that's a potential game-tying shot. So, I think you're messing around with fire. I just didn't like the way they came out, and I gave credit to Utah when they beat them last Tuesday at home. But truth be told, that's a bottom 5 defensive team. You've got to be able to go on the road. If you have aspirations like the Lakers do, you got to kick their ass. And I didn't see an ass kicking in the making.
So it's coming off of a 4-day layoff. People talk about rust. People talk about rhythm. Is it just because it's an awkward sort of game in the schedule where you have this game sort of in between where you have to travel and then you come right back because they're going to be home for a few games, I believe 4. Do you think it's distracted with the holidays? What do you think that is in this particular situation, as they've been inconsistent throughout the season, but this game in Utah with the elevation, what do you think was difficult about this game?
Well, everything you said, I hear you, but I totally disagree with you. Valid points that you give, but this is a job. It's a business. And, I don't believe in rust. There is no rust. I'm going to say it all the time. Tell me you don't have cardio. A guy says, well, I didn't play for a couple of days. I don't have rhythm. You can either shoot the ball or you can't. You can either play the piano or you can't. If you're a bus driver, you either stop at the railroad tracks or you damn don't. Basketball is a game of habits. The cardio is the only thing that I buy. So I don't know what it is. It's almost like being at the country club. Sometimes we talk as coaches where you play down to the level of your competition. But I'm going to tell you one damn team that doesn't do that. And that's Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And that's why they're the defending champions. That's why they have such a great record. And that's why they're probably going to win the Western Conference, because they approach every game. And I know your naysayers are going to be, well, you can't approach this game like, you're playing the championship Celtics or the Showtime Lakers. The heck you can. This is your job. I mean, we talked about this ad nauseum one night, you and I. I'd hate to be, if you're going to have a trap game or an off night, think if you're a surgeon. You just you had a couple days off, and
this
the scalpel's in your
kidney
hand.
replacement.
Yeah. So again, I think, and that's really what I think people don't understand about coaching. There's so many things that go into this. You can have the perfect plan, you can have the perfect scout, but if your guys don't come out and hit first, there is no way. And don't get me wrong, Laker fans, there was never a doubt in my mind until the very end. Like I said, when they were up 13 and they started letting them make some headway, I think they were going to lose that game.
And speaking of the minor collapse at the end, I think they went on a 13-3 run or something like that. The Lakers are, I believe, in 15th place as far as scoring margins compared to OKC, who's at the top, and I believe there's a 16-point scoring margin where the Lakers are like 2.3. Is that going to show later on in the season as we're number 2 in the West now, but is that going to catch up to us, or are we a team that is just built for tougher games, as we've seen teams that have won with major or large margins, they sometimes aren't able to execute under pressure. What do you think about that as far as the Lakers being so low in the scoring margin?
That doesn't bother me right now in terms of it will eventually down the road, but we're so early into the season. I love analytics, and if it can help you win, then I'll use it. But I'm not an analytical guy. I have 2 eyeballs and I have a gut, and I go with the gut feeling. And of all that you said, some very valid points. But here's the problem with the Lakers. Okay. Tonight, in particularly, they went iso ball. They settled. They took bad shots. And then, me and you always talk about this. The offense and the defense are connected. When they're playing well, they get back, they get turned, and they defend. But it all starts on offense. If you're not taking good shots and moving the ball and finding the open shots, then your offense is off balance and you don't have guys back. This is a Laker team. They're terrible defensively at defending the corner 3, which is transition defense, getting back and matching up. They're also terrible at defending the rim. Okay, and I think DeAndre Ayton, and we'll talk about him leaving the game only 13 minutes. But this is a team right now that really lacks a consistency on defense, and that translates from the offense, because if you're not taking good shots and have floor balance, you can't get back. And now you've got the rim runs, the run outs. You've got guys that are getting back and they're getting back to the paint. That's old school basketball. Modern day basketball, you got to stop the ball and then you got to fan out and you got to get to shooters, because teams run for threes. You want threes, you want layups and dunks, and you want free throws. That's modern day basketball. And the Lakers right now, there's a dividend. I'm not worried about if they win by 20 or they, win by 1. They just need to win. And when it comes down to it, you can't, even though they won, you can't play like that with a bottom team. It lets other teams know that, well, when they come to our place, they might not be into it. They might not execute, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a habit. It's being pit bulls, not poodles. Some guys played well, some guys didn't play well, but then that's the next man up theory.
And what do you say about the shooting woes thus far this season? It's at the bottom of the NBA as far as from the 3-point percentage, and even in the post-game interview, JJ Redick spoke about it. LeBron spoke about it. LeBron mentioned that the shots, they're getting good looks, but they're just not falling. Like, do you think that this will activate the defense? What do you think about their shooting woes thus far?
Well, I don't know if it'll activate it, Alan, but I know one thing that it can't do. It can't affect the defense. A lot of guys, when they miss a shot, it affects them. Have you ever seen a guy look at his hands or drop his head when his man drives by him and scores? Have you ever seen that in all the basketball you played?
No.
No, but every time you see a guy miss a shot, what does he do? Looks at his hand, he just, there's always a dismay. So, I'm not worried about them in the sense of missing shots as long as they're taking good shots. The law of averages, everything's going to equal out. But, this is a team that, you said it. They're bottom. They're cellar dwellers in terms of the 3-point shooting team, because I don't think they're a good 3-point shooting team. And with LeBron coming back, that helps their 3-point percentage. But this is a team, I think, Alan, that is really good at their 2-point percentage, which everybody says the mid-range is dead. But again, don't have stats with me here in Maui. But I can tell you this. The Lakers can get to their spots. LeBron showed the other night when he came back and had those 12 assists that he can get into the paint. AR can get into the paint and spray out. But I say this all the time, man. Everybody can be a taker. The guys that can make baskets are makers. So, it's getting into the gym. You didn't lose your rhythm. You're just not hitting shots. So it's practicing and it's being a master of your craft. And I don't really have any concerns about that. I think they're going to be okay, but I think they can't let their missed shots affect their defense. When you turn it over or you miss a shot, you ought to run back, get turned, and start talking and start barking and make it up on the defensive end of the floor instead of pouting or I got fouled and all that other BS. Just get to the next play. That's one of the biggest things I learned in the NBA. Forget that you missed a shot. Now get back and do something positive on the other end of the floor for your team.
So with this being LeBron James's second game back, he looked good in transition. He was scoring well in transition, but there was a moment during the game where he called to get sub and then went on to score the next 6 points for the Lakers. But you spoke about cardio earlier. I think this is a great time in the podcast that what do you suggest as a coach that other athletes can prepare for higher altitude games and to better their cardio in the middle of in the early stages of the season?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you can do. I will tell you what Byron Scott did that really impressed me my first year with the Hornets in New Orleans. We were on a road trip and we could have stayed in another town, but he's like, let's get to Denver a day early. We didn't go back to New Orleans and we had a full out practice. It was almost like a training camp practice. And, I don't know if it was close to maybe mid-season, but he wanted to burn their lungs out. He wanted them, because it's real. We can sit here and say all the time, it's not real.
Oh,
when
no,
you go
it's
in
real.
There, whatever. Yeah, you know that from running.
I just ran a marathon it was at the top of a mountain. It was like at 3,000 feet up. It was different. It was different. I had to train for it.
Yeah, no, see, I like that. And I just ran like 16 flight of steps because the teams here were all getting in the elevator. So I was winded to get on this podcast while we're doing it. So I know it is real, but there's nothing you can do. You hit the wall and you have to fight through it. Now, if I coached in Denver, if I coached in Salt Lake City, I would put together a team, man, that is going to run you to death. You remember Paul Westhead at Loyola Marymount, and I think he was in Denver when they would get it up and go. But it's a definite advantage. But there's nothing that you can do to prepare. I mean, you're going to hit that wall. You know that from running, and it's going to burn a little bit. But just like we saw in game number 1 with LeBron James, he got tired, he got his second wind, he got his third wind. And the best thing to do, I love players in college, not too many that I ever coached in the NBA, that when they needed a blow and they needed a break, they'd put their hand up and we'd get them out. It was a communication. They're running back in transition and they'd put their hand up. And see, as a coach, that would tell me, okay, I got to get Joey out. I'm going to get him out. I'm going to sit him for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, maybe 2 minutes before a TV timeout. And then I'm going to get him right back in. What I don't like is when guys are in there and they're tired and they don't want to come out, because now that's being selfish. They're not helping their team.
So at the beginning of the game, we had everybody healthy, and early in the game, we saw Ayton leave. I guess what's your thoughts on that? And he's been playing so well. How do you think it will affect future games if he has to stay out longer than a game or two?
Well, I think it's next man up. So next person up, you got Jackson Hayes, you got Maxey that can come in. But what's disappointing is that he's been playing so well the last 3 games, 20 plus points. I don't have rebounds in front of me. I don't have anything in front of me really, but he's just playing well. And then he had so much joy that first game with LeBron, and he brought back, that was the second lob you threw me. So it was just there was a good feel there. And we talked about this early on when we started this podcast. DeAndre Ayton has all the talent in the world. He just hasn't been able to get over that hump that we all want him to get to. And I think playing with LeBron, playing with Luka, playing with AR, they're dynamic playmakers, and they can put him in a position. So I think it's a big miss if he were to miss some games. Hopefully it's something minor and he can get right back on track. But, to only play 13 minutes in that game, that was a bummer for me to watch. But I just felt like he was getting a little bit of positive momentum to go. But with that being said, there's other guys that got to get in there. And that's why they're pros. If you have a roster spot, if you put on a uniform, you've got to be able to go in and help your team when your number's called.
We're 12-4. We're 12-4. With all that being said, with all of the shooting woes, with People in and out of the starting lineup. We are at number 2. We got a nice little homestand. What's your predictions as far as going into the holiday week?
It's just with this team, you can't make predictions, and that's why it's so difficult to bet on games. Because if I knew, we'd go to Vegas, and then we wouldn't have to bait.
And we
Hey,
have to
Alan,
beg
we
for
wouldn't have to
sponsors.
bait. Yes, now you're starting to think like me, and I'd have stat sheets in front of me. And you know what? I just wouldn't be in this little suite. I'd be in the presidential suite.
That's right. That's right.
If I knew, but I know what I'm going to get from the big 3. Look at Luka. Luka was flirting with a triple double tonight, 33, 11, and I think 8 assists.
Yes.
And he did not play good.
Yes.
Everybody, I don't spread hate. I want you and I to tell it like it is. He doesn't play well, and he almost gets a triple double. He's 3 for 12 from 3, and he still plays better than the average human being. So
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to get from him. I know what I'm going to get from LeBron. Ayton, we'll see what happens. So to me, it's just consistency, and it's developing the killer instinct that Oklahoma City has. And going into tonight, there were like 3 or 4 teams in the West that all had those 4 losses.
Yeah.
And as you said, the Lakers win. We're tied for second for the second seed. There's got to be an urgency. You got to come in. I mean, think of the first game. The Lakers were down, if my memory's right, last Tuesday, 16-6 that Utah came out. And again, they're pros. I respect them. But this second time around, I'm not respecting them. I'm pretty ticked off, and I'm like, we're just messing around. And the Lakers were in control, but there's a difference of just skating and just floating. You got to put your sneaker, you got to put your Nike on someone's throat. And then you got to dig that heel into their Adam's apple. And you think altitude is high, or a postman, you got to meet and greet him with your elbow. I'm not talking about hurting anybody, but you got to put a body on them. You got to hit first. It's sort of like when you get to the studio earlier and you try and get in my big trailer. I had to tell you, that's not your trailer, Alan.
Here you go. Here you go, bragging about your trailer. Okay, your trailer's bigger than mine. It's okay. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you for telling the world. You showed people my closet of a trailer, but thank you. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Listen, I want everybody to go. What's your social media? Your handle?
Maldonado is everywhere small trailer.
Yeah.
In my small trailer.
Yeah, I want them to see you, because the biggest thing that I felt bad about, I didn't feel bad that it was a small trailer, because I'm just breaking you into this business. I mean, I do have an Emmy. It's not here, but it's in Manhattan Beach. And I have numerous appearances on national shows. So I'm just trying to bring you along like a rookie in the podcast.
Just my rookie hazing. Okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah,
I'm getting donuts in the morning and all that as well, I guess.
Yeah. That being said, the funniest thing was when you noticed you did not have steps to get into your trailer.
Yeah, just an amenity that I might need, but it did not feature any steps. Yes.
And I got to tell our listeners that haven't seen you in person, I'm tall. You're not that tall. I mean, if I had to use a descriptive on those high curbs in LA, I saw you playing handball the other day. I just
understand that you have a flight of stairs and I have to jump inside of my trailer. This is what you're telling the audience as far as my rookie hazing, is that I don't have the basic amenity of a step to my trailer where you have an escalator attached to yours. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
there's levels to this, and it's okay.
You,
it's okay. It's all right. I get it.
And to be totally transparent, because we were going to do this podcast tonight so late, I had 2 pina coladas at dinner, but they were virgin pina coladas. They tasted so sweet.
Man, okay, all right. So we got this upcoming homestand, and I just have a question in regards to like holiday games, meaning that whenever there's a holiday, there's extra family coming in, especially if you're playing a home game. As a coach, in preparing for a holiday game, is there anything that you are aware of, or you try to help your athletes with dealing with this sort of, or you separate the professionals from the people that aren't as professional? Is this the moment?
No, I ain't your mommy and I ain't your daddy. And I'm certainly not your agent, or I'd have an even bigger trailer than the podcast trailer, right? No, listen, this is a job. There's 450, I don't have a calculator, but I always say there's 450 dudes in the world, not in America, in the world that get to play this game, that get to go to work. I mean, some guys work 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 34 minutes, 35 minutes a night. You don't get tired. You don't get burnt out.
You right.
You know,
You right.
you know when you get burnt out? You get burnt out. You use that when you're losing. You lose that when things aren't going well. My son had a friend that he was taking tennis lessons, and all of a sudden with my kids, and he stopped playing tennis. And I said to the dad, "How come Stevie not playing tennis anymore?" "Oh, he's burnt out." And I looked at the dad. I said, "Oh, you mean he sucks? He can't hit the ball over the net. You don't get burnt out." So no, there is nothing to do. And you did say some truth. There's a little bit of clutter there's always clutter when you get home. Road trips are the greatest to bond. Road trips are the greatest to focus and get better individually and as a team. At home, you got so much going on. So we get that. But you know what? It's one of the greatest jobs in the world. And if you can't handle managing your time with family, friends, your kids, your wife, then you got to get an assistant. You got to get an agent that can help you manage your days, because you're playing basketball. You're not going to surgery. You're not going to court. You don't have to prepare for a deposition. You don't have to be a firefighter and have to put out fires and save people's lives. This is a game where you show up. The average guy goes to the gym and works out. That's what NBA guys do every day. You go to the gym, you work out, and then you get to show out. What does Bruno Mars say? You got to show up and show out.
That's
and,
right.
and you get to play. You get to play. So no, I don't buy any of that. Now, if we're talking college, that's a little bit different story. Especially, freshmen, it's the holidays, especially if they're not playing, they're homesick, and you want to make them feel good, and you usually send them home for a day or two, and then you got to be back because your conference play starts in college. But NBA guys, man, they're your pros. Come do your job. Come be a pit bull. If your job is to rebound, rebound. If your job is to make shots, make shots. If your job is to set screens, or be on the bench and be happy for the success of others. And when your number's called, give JJ Redick reason not to take you out of the game. And then when he takes you out, he thinks, man, I got to find him more time, and build your minutes up. So no, there's nothing about the holidays, man. Nothing.
Okay, so going back to the Laker game, there was the moment where at the buzzer, that three-pointer could have changed this to a loss. From a coach's perspective, what do you think? Was there miscommunication, or what is the best way to defend in those moments where you have only seconds on the clock and have to get a stop?
I've always thought this with this Laker team defensively. They're starting to talk a little bit better, and LeBron is really going to help that. But when you switch, I can't stand passive switchers. It's a switch to deny. So when two people come together, you've got to talk and you've got to yell switch. Half the time they do, half the time they don't. That's why you get guys slipping, and now you got those easy rolls and dumps for dunks or layups. So I've always said this: if you're going to switch, I'm going to switch. And when we come together, man, I'm switching out with that deny hand, and I'm not going to allow you to receive the ball. And if in fact you do, which we know you can't deny somebody the ball every single time. It's like the guy that says,
Right.
well, I play 100%. Kobe Bryant did play 100%. And I'm the biggest Kobe fan out there. And a lot of other players, I'm their biggest fan. It's humanly impossible to do something 100%. it's impossible. So when they say, well, 100%, no, I just need you 90 to 95% of consistency. Switch to deny. Don't let you're going to get beat. Your man is going to catch the ball, but push him out above the 3-point line. We always say take the player out of his operational zone. Don't let the offense get a rhythm. Remember, I don't believe in no damn rhythm when it comes to shooting.
Right.
You either your feet are set, you look the ball into your hands, and it's a nice little rhythm. You don't drop it. It's like good shooters are like an Earth, Wind, and Fire concert. It's like it's all about the rhythm.
That's right.
It's rhythm, and though you if you play defense to deny, you can take a team out. But you know what? This is what I would say to the team. We should have never been in a position to do that. You were up 13 points with 4 minutes and 41 seconds. All you have to go down, and remember my theory that I'm going to teach you. You're going to be a great coach one day. You really are. And you say, well, I'm not going to coach in college and the NBA. You're going to be a youth league coach, or you're going to coach an adult team you run. Every 5 possessions, you got to get 3 stops. If you
Right.
do that, you win that game in double figures. It was just messing around, and that other team was starting to get momentum. They start to get confidence. They start to score, and then anything can happen. I wouldn't be happy. And you know what? I'm in Maui. They're in Utah on their way home right now.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not happy. So I know there's some guys that got on that plane, and JJ Redick for sure ain't happy.
So my
Okay.
question, my
Because
question is this something that you get to practice on your off days, as far as these last second sort of defensive schemes, or is this just an effort thing?
both, both. I mean, mostly good coaches will always go at the end of, at least we did. We would always go at the end of the practice situations, up 1, down 1 with 13 seconds on the clock. So, because, some teams stop playing to win. They play not to lose. And that's when you have a lot of time. I can't stand teams, they're up 11 and they're going to come down, and, they're just going to pound the basketball, and they're going to just draw out the shot clock, and then they're going to take a bad shot. I want to play the game. If you've got that double point lead, and I'm not talking about running and gunning and jacking up threes, I'm talking about coming down, executing in your half court, getting it to the third or the fourth side of your offense, getting the ball inside out, and getting a high quality shot. The law of averages say that you're going to win the game. So good coaches should practice those situations. But in what you're talking about with Keontae George getting that shot, that's individual defense. You have to be a good individual defender. And is Keontae George a surprise? He kicked your tail,
Right.
on Tuesday. And he's not a household name.
Right.
If you ask 20 people tomorrow, man, I'll give you $10 if for every person that can tell you where he played college basketball.
Listen,
Okay,
Coach.
I'll give you.
You right.
Go
You
ahead.
right. You right. No, I'm just saying. You right. You right. That's a bet I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't take. So listen, all right. So with the holidays coming up, we got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas. Again, going into your memory banks, a memory bank as a coach. I guess what's your favorite holiday moment as a coach?
Oh, that's easy. Going out, and a lot of teams do it. I saw where Magic Johnson, I think it was the Magic Johnson Foundation, just this past weekend, because I saw it on Byron Scott's social media. I think I saw AC Green. I know Michael Cooper and his wife Yvonne were there. Yvonne were there handing out food. That's one of the greatest things I think at the holiday time, when you just think, sometimes coaches and players, we have to do more than just basketball, but being able to go out and not just give people a bag of foods, but watching Magic Johnson line dance, watching Byron sing, the can you woo woo woo? Can you woo woo woo? Jeffrey Osborne. Those
Come
guys.
on,
Those
get
guys just
into
have
it,
a
Coach.
good. Hey, I'm going to tell you one thing. Byron's so talented, man. He can dance, he can sing, he can golf. But when he's at a concert or Jeffrey's performing, like at a birthday party that we're at, and Jeffrey will get the microphone and Byron goes on there, it's like Byron could go on tour. But those are the things. Watching people put a smile on their face, and not just because you hand them a turkey or you hand them bags of groceries, but to see professional basketball players feel good, or even, at the soup kitchens, or, places where the homeless people eat, to have
Mm-hmm.
pros and movie stars go and do that thing. I think there's no better thing than to give back at this time, because I go back to saying there's 450 guys, and, let's say there's 10 coaches, front and back bench. There's 300 men and women that coach in the NBA. They are so blessed.
Right.
They are so blessed to do what they do on a daily and a nightly, when the games are during the week. It's just giving back to people and putting a smile on their face and touching them, and giving them high
Right.
five, and, having Magic Johnson smile at you. I mean, to me, that's life. That's life. That's better than any 10-foot basket. It's just
So
making people have a
so
better
what about
experience.
in college? Because I know it's a different sort of approach to handling the holidays, where some kids may go home, some kids may stay. How does that look, as far as from a college coach perspective, with the holidays coming in, and sort of what memory can you speak of in that space?
It's funny you should ask this, and I think this is important for our followers and our subscribers to bench, to know that we have yet to sit down and ever talk about what we're going to talk about. I mean, I just came up 16 flights of steps, so I wasn't late, and plus I needed to work. I needed to work out all that shrimp and lobster we had, at the dinner table. But it's like, you ask these questions, and this is great, because I'm right here in Maui at the Maui Classic, and you have the University of Texas, USC is here, Boise State is here, Seton Hall is here. I mean, I could name five more schools that are playing,
Wow.
but those are the coaches that I've seen and the players walking around today. And you say, is it different? Sure. Some of these kids have never been to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a bunch of teams. I don't know. Let's just say there's 10 teams or 8 teams. I haven't even looked at the bracket, but there's some kids on this trip that will never ever come back to Hawaii.
Yeah.
They might not make it in the pros. They might go on family vacations somewhere else. So it's a different beast. I remember, when I was full heart in that 2 decades of college coaching. You go to this tournament, Maui, the Great Alaska Shootout, and you say, who wants to go to Alaska? I was just telling my mom and my girlfriend at dinner, one of the greatest things was going to Alaska, and they both looked at me, and I'm like, do you know, like, it only gets light 1 hour a day around Thanksgiving time, when the Great Alaska Shootout was. So it's dark, and for 1 hour the sun comes out, the light switch goes on, and then in 60 minutes it gets dark again. These kids now go to Atlantis. They go to the different Caribbean islands to play. So I think it's phenomenal. So that's one school of thought. The holidays, you're taking kids out, and you're teaching them, and you're showing them something that they may never experience for the rest of their life. The other thing is, when you're at home, when you're in school, you're playing games. So what do? You go to a coach, usually the head coach. The head coach and his wife have everybody over, and you have you practice that day, and then you practice the hell out of them that day if you're not playing, and then you go have a big Thanksgiving dinner, and that goes hand in hand with bonding. Sort of like with NBA guys, I think you bond on road trips. Well,
Mm-hmm.
with college guys, it's a little bit different, because as a college coach, we're their second father. We're their big brother, if you will.
Yeah.
We're responsible for, if you had a son that played on a team that I coached on, or coached with the other coaches. We've made a commitment to you. We're not only going to teach your kid how to play, and we're also going to try and get them to the next level to make money at this thing, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in the NBA. But most importantly, I'm responsible for his safety. I'm responsible for his maturation in terms of getting his degree. And those, to me, are all parental things that I always took very, very serious.
And that is what coaching is all about. Outside of the lines, really pouring into these young men and making them better as human beings. And that's just a beautiful sentiment. And I'm sure you get ex-players that hit you up, send pictures of their kids and all of those things. And that right there speaks to it speaks louder than wins and losses. And that
No
is
question.
that is beautiful.
I always say this: the best Christmas cards I get are from the players. This is crazy. I recruited a 6'9" kid from Jacksonville, Florida, named Alvin Higgs,
Oh,
and
come on.
did not make it to the NBA. I'm sure if I remember, and he played at the University of Texas.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
a power forward that we got, a junior college power forward, and so he may have played overseas, but he definitely didn't play in the NBA. I
Mm-hmm.
lost touch with him. So when Byron Scott hired me, and I'm going to New Orleans, and Katrina comes, and all our stuff has been packed up in two tractor trailers. Where they come in, the cars that they pulled the cars into the back of them, they packed everything. They're on their way, and we get a call and said, "Mr. Miller, your shipment is going to be delayed to your house probably 2 days. We hear there's a storm coming to New Orleans." Obviously, no one knew it was Katrina at the time.
Right.
So he said, "We're going to stop the truck and the truck driver in Houston. They're going to spend a night or two in Houston, and then we'll call you and we'll make the delivery." So all of a sudden, when Katrina came, when I'm not going to tell the whole long story, I'm starting to call people because I have the cars in the truck and they don't know where we're going to be sent. At that time, David Stern had not chosen to send us to Oklahoma City. It was Anaheim. It was Kansas City. It was Vegas. It was
Wow.
one other place. So we didn't know where it was going to go. So I needed a place to put the cars in storage. And all of a sudden I found out that Alvin Higgs owned a car dealership in Houston, and that's where they
Wow.
stopped. So we connected. Well, now he found out that my son David is coaching at the University of Texas, and he just texted me on Friday, and I didn't get back to him, but he texted me. He said, "Hey, Coach, man, we need to catch up." He says, "I've sold my dealerships. I've moved back east." He says, "Can you give me a call this weekend?" So I'm going to probably call him tomorrow at the pool after I go whale watching and try and find sand turtles. I'm going to call big old Alvin Higgs up because he was country. He had some big mitts, and we could get that ball with him in the post. But that's the best thing is watching these kids. And then the last thing is now I have players who have kids that are 5 and 6 year olds, and they're starting to come to my basketball camps in Manhattan Beach, and that's when you go full circle. And that's the thing that I love most. It's the relationships. Just like everybody else that's watching, everybody has relationships. You can't be successful without relationships, and nothing beats that.
Man, that is completely correct, and just a beautiful story as far as how needed that is, that type of relationship from your coach, because you as a player you're so vulnerable to their leadership, and oftentimes I've witnessed coaches take advantage of that trust of the player, and that's just beautiful to hear. Speaking of your camp, your basketball camp, speaking to the youth, what would be one basketball tip you can give these kids today?
You got to compete. That's the biggest thing in this day and age, and I don't care where it is. I don't care what state, and they compete a little bit harder overseas. That's why they have the advantage of us. You have
Mm.
to compete. Too many kids play in recreation leagues, and they score 10 or 12 points, and they think they're pros. Well, I know a lot of guys at the health club that are 45 years old that think they're going to be pros, right? I mean, I watched a video of you hooping the other night you sent to me, and
I
you're
was
like,
trying to
"Coach,
get a
I
10-day.
still."
Don't do me like that, coach.
Yeah. You were trying to get a 10-day, and I thought, oh God, I hope he doesn't tear his Achilles tendon
Listen,
because
I
he's going to
still got some
hobble.
eligibility. What we talking about, coach? I'm good. Put me in.
Well, you know what? There's a chance. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell the truth. There's a chance you could get drafted, but it's either going to be by the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and maybe the Coast Guard. You have a chance. You have a chance to get drafted.
Come
But
on.
back to that, you have to be able to compete. And you don't, I say this to college teams all the time, especially when I'll start doing college games as an analyst. I'll go to practice the day before or at the shoot around, and the head coach will ask me to talk because of my experience, of being around Kobe as much as I was coaching Chris Paul. There's very few people on a team that's going to make it to the NBA where they're going to run plays for them. You don't run plays for guys that are late first round. You're going to run plays for Cooper Flagg, but there's one Cooper Flagg.
Right.
Boozer at Duke, they're going to run plays for him, but everybody else, they don't run plays for you. You got to defend. You have to rebound. You have to talk. You have to do what you were just talking about earlier. You can't let Keontae George catch and get a shot off.
Correct.
And again, I get it. I don't have videotape, and I'm watching it on a phone to be able to break it down. But you can't put your team in a position to lose. Or what if you foul him and how he goes to the free throw line? So the number one thing is compete. I do want to ask you a question. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay.
You're talking about relationships and coaching. Is there somebody in your field as an actor, maybe a producer, as a writer? Is there somebody that you formed a relationship that helped you become and I'm going to say it, you're a star to me. I mean, I see you on this and that. You're everywhere, like your moniker says. But is there somebody that just befriended you and mentored you?
Good question. It's been a lot of people that have mentored and sort of given me assistance throughout my career. Been doing it 20 years, but I'll start off with one of the first ones being a writer named Michael Caine. He wrote All the Right Moves for Tom Cruise, and he met me at 17, and I was doing an acting showcase. And at the end of the showcase, he walked up to me and he gave me the prophecy that I would be a great writer. And we went on to write 2 scripts together, and he taught me how to write. And that was at the young age of 17, before I even kind of was even understanding what acting was. And from there, moved forward to now I'm writing on television shows. I've sold shows. So, Michael Caine was my coach as a writer, and he changed my life. And in that mentorship, I remember throwing my 21st birthday at his house, at his pool. I had a pool party. He had a huge pool in his backyard. So that relationship there is a direct reflection of my success, because without that early education, I wouldn't have been able to benefit in these rooms that I got thrusted in later on in my career. And he passed away. So R.I.P. to Michael Caine, man. That was my dude.
No, that's always interests me. I've always wanted to ask you, because when I see you on these different shows and I pull you up, and I'm like, I wonder who had an impact. So you were lucky to get someone that cared about you like he did and took an interest and took you to the next level.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the relationship between a coach, I think I shared this story as far as with my basketball coach, and when I made the team, I was very shocked that I made the team, because it was my first time ever playing organized sport. It was the first year of me deciding, after I spent most of my life being a Boy Scout and almost Eagle Scout, and I was so shocked by making the team because I was terrible, Coach. Talk about having no left. I had no right. I had nothing. I didn't have nothing. Couldn't shoot. It was all effort in what you just spoke about to these kids as far as competing. I would not let anyone out compete me. Now, I had no skills. You talk about reverse pivot, front. I'm fumbling. I'm a hot mess, Coach. So when I saw the list, I had made a promise to myself that I was going to prove to my mom that I was going to make the team. So before I went home, I had to run up on the coach. I ran up on the coach, and I'm like, I got the piece of paper in my hand. Like, I see my name here, but I just want to make sure before I go home. He kind of looked at me and bluntly said, "Alan, you suck." And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is not helping me understand how I make the team. So as I'm just looking confused, he did says to me, you made the team because you make everyone around you work harder. And Coach Sipe was the first person to really recognize me as an amplifier, and I've went on and been that my entire life, or whatever or whoever or what environment that I've put myself into. That is the energy that I bring. So it was my basketball coach that saw that in me early, that now in every medium that I choose, I use that same work ethic, in this the heart to compete, man, and give it your all. And no matter if you have the ability, if you're giving it your all, you will get that ability quicker than you think. So that was what I took from that conversation and that moment, and that sort of shaped all of my work ethic, and in every credit, in every movie, in every TV show, every art, everything that I do was spawned from that event happening the way it did, and that conversation of him sort of recognizing that I was an amplifier.
Let's do this because you're always the host with the most. I'm going to give you some. I'm going to give you some quick hits, and I want quick answers. Don't be
Okay.
like me. Okay. Favorite all-time actor.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Favorite all-time movie.
Bad Boys.
Sexiest woman in a movie ever.
This can't be quick fire. Come on.
Quick fire. Quick fire.
Halle Berry.
Best role you've ever had.
Ooh, Rooster from Hills.
If if
I'll
you
say that.
if oh, just quick hit, quick
Okay.
hit. If because see, I'm the coach, you let me babble.
I got you.
I'm gonna keep you in mind. If you could work tomorrow with anybody in Hollywood that's alive, who would it be in a movie tomorrow?
Oh, it's Leo. Leo,
Okay, if you could,
hands down.
this is Leo. I'm gonna put you on the bench. Okay, if you could do a movie tomorrow and bring somebody back that has passed, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Ooh, it's I can't. But why I'm going blank right now? Just because, just for one thing, and it's very specific. I can't remember the actor's name all of a sudden. I'm gonna get killed for this. He plays Mufasa. He plays Dark Vader. Man, why am I going blank here? James Earl Jones. That is.
Oh my God.
I would love to work with James Earl Jones, and not in a movie, but I would love the dude to play fences with James Earl Jones. That would be probably powerful, and him playing my father. I used to do fences at every showcase imaginable in my 20s, and that was sort of how I made my name around town as being an actor's actor. Yeah. So James Earl Jones.
Favorite. Okay, now these are real quick hit. Favorite rapper. Favorite rapper.
Oh, 50 Cent.
Favorite old school TV show.
Welcome Back, Carter.
Wow. Wow. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Ooh.
Favorite,
That was the Sweat Hogs was my jam.
Your favorite Sweat Hog. Who's your favorite character?
Oh, John Travolta. John Travolta. He was a meathead. He was fun.
Favorite NBA player.
Kobe Bryant.
Favorite WNBA player.
Ooh. Cheryl Miller.
That's what I'm talking about.
And fun fact, Cheryl Miller was the first autograph that I ever got from a celebrity. I was in Rialto, California. She came to Bemis Elementary, and she saw, I forgot, it's still under my mother's mattress. I still have my Cheryl Miller autograph because Rialto was fairly close to Riverside where they grew up. So that was why she ended up at my elementary for some random reason. But yeah, that was the first autograph that I ever got.
I think you said this was our 5th episode, so I hope this isn't TMI or too personal. What the heck is the autograph doing under your mother's mattress?
Do you understand, in the black household, a mother's mattress
No.
is like a Fort Knox. All of the important my birth certificate is right next to this Cheryl Miller's autograph. So to think that to think that the under the mattress isn't the safest place in the world, you don't understand a black mother. that is the safest. Any important documents, it's underneath the mattress. My mom was from the South. She's from Alabama, so it's a lot of country ways that I've been raised around. So yeah, it's under the mattress.
Well, with that answer, I think we definitely, that's a great segue into, let's find out who's benched.
Yeah, let's get into it, Coach. I like to let you go first because I like to laugh and see who you benched this week. Who do you have this week?
I've been wanting to do this one for weeks, but the person is going to be whoever scheduled the University of Tennessee women's basketball team. I don't know who they played, but they beat a team. They beat a team by 100. The score was, I looked at the score, it was 148-48. I get exhibition games. I get non-conference buy-in games. I get that you want to look good, but you're the University of Tennessee. I mean, Pathead Summit was not just one of my favorite women coaches ever. She was one of my favorite all-time coaches ever. She reminded me so much of Bobby Knight and, her battles with, Tennessee and UConn with Gino. But now, how do you play a team and beat them by 100 points? You get nothing out of it. Think of the self-esteem of those young ladies that got beat by 100.
Yeah.
You talk about having a bad day, they're going to have a bad month. So whoever, and I'm starting to talk a little bit quieter because people are probably falling asleep on either side of me. Okay. I don't want to get evicted before the ASU Texas game tomorrow at 6:30 on ESPN2.
Come on.
But think about it. Who schedules a game and you beat a team by 100 points? Whoever did that, you're benched.
You're getting benched. Okay. Who I'm benching this week is I could have benched him every episode thus far, for various reasons, but I'm benching the Clippers organization, and I'm not speaking of all of the behind the scenes stuff. I'm talking about the legitimate season, or the fact that this is Chris Paul's last season, and this is what they're making of it. Like, this is what he is having to go out his last year as one of the greatest point guards to ever play in this game. And he is such a winner. And to have to go through his last season, I know he's home in LA, I understand all that. But as a fan of Chris Paul, and again, I'm a Laker fan all the way. So as long as they don't beat us, I want Chris Paul to have a great final season. And the Clippers are just a hot mess. So the entire organization is getting benched.
You do know now we're not going to get our free tickets at Intuit Dome.
I listen, man. They doing it to Chris Paul, man. This is not personal. This is for Paul, man. This is for CP3, man. Come on, let's get it right for CP3.
Hey, big props. If it's true that he's going to retire, as we saw on social media, obviously the best player that I ever coached, a better dad, a better father, a better husband than he is point God. But I'm going to tell you this, he'll go down when, and Kobe and I used to talk about this all the time. Kobe would ask me, what guys do I think had killer instinct? And and he knew I coached Chris Paul, so he always wanted to know what made CP tick. What did CP do? What were his workouts like? How many times did he work out?
Okay, so
Kobe
one
wanted to
one quick
know
question.
everything.
One quick question before we end this. This is a good question as far as, did you have a conversation with Kobe around the time when Chris Paul was supposed to be traded and then it got vetoed by the NBA? Did you ever have a conversation with him about that?
No, we never did, but I can give you some insight on that. This was just when Kobe would pick my mind and pick my brain just about league players. This started in 2010
Right.
when I started covering the Lakers. But the crazy thing is, and I don't know how true this is, but I had heard this through the grapevine. Everybody thought that it was David Stern that vetoed it. David Stern just happened to be the commissioner.
Right.
It was the other 29 owners that voted. David Stern was the figurehead of the New Orleans Hornets with the other owners. And I don't know if this is true, but I had heard that there were the league meetings, or there were meetings, and the majority of the owners were in one room, and word had got out about this trade going through. So I always thought, like, if it would have happened, say that was on a Wednesday, if it would have happened on Monday or Friday, not everyone would have been together. Maybe it would have never been vetoed, and maybe it would.
I think it was
Again, this
right
is all.
around when that Dan Gilbert letter came out. So I think that's why they were all together
Gotcha.
yeah, I think it was definitely terrible timing.
Yeah, because
Terrible
it wasn't David Stern. Yeah, exactly. It's wrong place at the wrong time. But
yeah, it
it
was like,
wasn't
oh,
that
too
David
soon.
Stern just came in and said, "Nope, this isn't going to happen." It was the league that didn't allow it to happen. But man, I always look back and you say, "What if? What if?" Because
Man,
I'll end it on this. Again, with the exception of Kobe Bryant, I have never ever been around with somebody that competed like CP3. And I've never been around anybody other than Kobe that hated to lose. And I'm not talking about a game.
yeah,
I'm not talking about a game on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night. Chris Paul hated to lose in practice. He hated to lose sprints. He hated to lose defensive drills, man. Byron Scott had some drills, man, where each guy, you'd have, 6 or 7 guys in a line, and each guy would go up and you'd have to guard the other 5 guys, zigzag to half court, toss the ball back, sprint, close out. And I mean, these were Pat Riley drills
wow,
that the Showtime Lakers used. And Chris Paul very seldom, if ever, lost a sprint, lost a drill. And then you talk about shooting before or after practice.
yeah,
So competitive. And like I said, man, he wore the same fabric. He had the same cloth
yeah.
that Kobe Bryant had. Two of the greatest competitors that I've ever been around, and two of the greatest men that I learned a lot about, and sometimes more than basketball.
Well, that's that, man. Shout out to Chris Paul and an incredible career. This is the end of episode 5 of Benched. Good luck to your son tomorrow, Coach. Everybody out there, please follow and subscribe. And this is Bench. Peace, y'all.
Can I get a hook 'em horns?
Come on, hook 'em horns. Am I doing it right? Yeah, there we go. Let's go.